Hey y'all, welcome and welcome back to my channel. It's me, Kia Simone, and let's get into this part 2 of the Real Housewives of Atlanta reunion, where thank God Kenya is going to drag Marlo back to reality. I cannot with this sob story. Let's get into it. Before we do, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you have not already. And I have to give a shout out to my super thanksters. Thank y'all so much for everything you do to support the channel. Yvette Greer, Amber Lede, and Simone Francois. And on Cash App, thank you so much to Deanna Jackson. I appreciate y'all. Now let's go ahead and get into this review. So part 2 of the reunion opens up right in the middle of where we left off, with Marlo giving her sob story about how the ladies could never walk a mile in her shoes. And they're always calling her a whore with no proof. They belittle her because she likes to take her credit and buy fashions, and because she speaks her mind. They don't even take the time to get to know her. And she sings Sanya praises for being a friend and holding her accountable and calling her and telling her when she went too far and you shouldn't have said that. Girl, please go to hell. Kenya called bullshit. Kenya said, look, this girl's sob story don't match her actions, because she's sitting up here telling the story, crying and carrying on about her trauma, and she hasn't had a fulfilling sexual relationship with a man. But she also sat up and dragged Candy and talked about how Candy can't keep a man because her pussy ain't no good. So I'm not really buying this. I said, well, thank you, Kenya, for waking up. Marlo starts playing dumb, looking around. I said that? Yeah, you said that. And that's why they played the footage to prove you said that. Kenya said it's constant hypocrisy and contradiction. And it is. Sanya tries to jump in and save her season buddy. She comes in about, I just want to make the discussion even. You know, everyone has their own experience, but I had a really good experience with Marlo. She's been a really good friend to me. Girl, just please take your Girl Scout friendship and going on out our face. Drew said, you know, I really want to like Marlo. I really do. And before she could finish, Marlo said, well, hold on, because remember you called me crying about Ralph. See, this is why. She said, remember you called me crying about Ralph and I encouraged you. I told you, girl, you got it. Girl, you can do this. Drew said, yeah, and see, this is the thing. I would like to be able to trust you. Like, what in the I'ma bully you into saying I'm a good friend hell is this? I remember you called me crying. Now make me tell them why you was crying. I'm gonna tell them why you was crying. Keep on talking. Like that, like, girl. So they talk about Marlo and this break-in that happened at her house and the fact that Kenya tweeted that she thought it was fake. And she thought it was fake because Marlo so readily shared details of the break-in with the media and social media, but withheld details from her very vulnerable castmates. And she said that she did this under police direction and that she withheld information as long as she could. And all the other ladies felt that she had been forthcoming and she shared with them everything that she knew. So this must have just been a I ain't telling Kenya shit kind of situation. Well, since we talking about kicking in doors, Andy said now it's time to talk about kicking out your nephews. Let's get into this. Marlo thinks that the issue is her verbiage. She thinks the problem is that she says, I kicked my nephews out, and it sounds bad. I just have a terrible way of saying things. But what I should have said is I needed a reset, because that's what was really going on. I needed to reset. I'm used to being the muntie that comes around and spoils them. Andy said, but that doesn't work. That does not work. She said, yeah, it doesn't work. And it doesn't work if I keep them and I beat them or I freak out on them like my mom did. Girl, here we go. So Andy is coaching her through. Andy says, yes, and you were worried. And she said, yes, I was worried that I needed to get myself together because I was losing control of my house. I went in thinking, you got this, and I needed a reset. Andy said, yeah, but on the other hand, hearing your backstory, while it's very moving, especially as a parent, it makes it hard to understand how you would go through all of that and then do to your nephews the same thing that was done to you. And that's when Candy steps in to say, yeah, we just listened to you tell this whole story about you being with this lady who you thought was your forever home, and it was such a nice place, and she gave you this beautiful life, and then suddenly you come home one day and you got to go. And that's when you started acting out and your life took a turn. And if you know that that was the case for you, why would you set your nephews up for the exact same thing? Candy said it was just shocking. Marlo said, well, I think a lot of people feel that way, Candy. But the problem is that foster parents get classes. They get classes that teach them how to deal with the issues that their children have. But I didn't get any classes. I didn't get that. Because, see, I come from abuse and the streets and figuring all this shit out on my own, okay? And she needed a reset. She did. She went and talked to a therapist, and now she actually talks and interacts with her nephews to make sure that they understand where she's coming from, and she wasn't doing that before, and Marlo can go straight to hell, okay? I'm not buying the whole, well, I didn't have any classes, this didn't come with an instruction manual. You know how to buy everything else. Now, you can't buy class, but you can buy a class. You could have gone and signed up for the same classes that you say you are aware of that other foster parents take. You have a whole agency geared toward taking care of foster girls. The least you could do is treat it like more than a tax scheme and go take some classes about fostering children. I don't buy Marlo's victim story. I'm not here for it. So Andy asked a viewer question, which was, why does Marlo spoil the girls for her foster care agency, but tell her nephews they need to be humble? And Marlo's answer is basically that she doesn't see the girls as often. She only really sees them on holidays and special occasions, and so she really spoils them, but she does teach them to be humble. So Andy asked Marlo how her sister's doing. Marlo said they haven't heard from her sister, and Andy commends Marlo on how she coached her nephews through the moment. As Andy is commending her, Kenya asked for a tissue. Andy said, are you moved? Kenya said, no, my nose is cold. In other words, there's a lot of bullshit in the air. Just please get on with this. So Andy thanks Marlo for opening up and sharing her story. Kenya says it's called damage control. Marlo says it's called evil bitch. Marlo is nuts. You just gave that whole performance and you turn around and it's called evil bitch. You damn right. That's exactly what your segment is going to be called. Evil bitch. So Marlo starts in with her victim stuff again about, hurt people. And me and Kenya, we have such similar backgrounds and we're so much alike that's why I think Kenya has a hard time ever uplifting me. But that's okay because I'm used to it. You know how you get used to abuse? Marlo is so full of shit and Kenya can't take it no damn more. Kenya said, you know what? Just stop. Stop with the fake stories. Just stop. Andy said, Kenya, do you think I should just move on? Kenya said, yeah. Andy said, I think I'm gonna. Everybody done had they fill of this bullshit. So we move on and we get to this receipts segment that they could have kept if you ask me. The first question of the segment is there more pressure to be honest knowing that their receipts will be checked? What? They know they on a reality show. They gonna lie if they want to lie. They ain't if they ain't. Like they get paid to lie. What? Marlo and Drew, yes, absolutely, yes, there's more pressure. Kenya said, no, it ain't, because some people just want to lie, and if they want to lie, they gonna lie. That's all it comes down to. They asked Drew how it felt to watch her and Wreck-It Ralph's relationship get roasted all season. Like, that's the story of her life. They asked Marlo how her edges are growing in because I guess they needed some filler questions just like Marlo needed some filler edges. Marlo said they're doing great. She went to the same doctor as Drew and that's how she's restoring her edges. Andy said, Kenya, how you think her edges look? You think they look good? Kenya said, I think some people still have a ways to go. He said, you think your products could help her? Yeah, I'm sure that they could. Marlo said, yeah, I've been using them. That's what I think is helping. Kenya said, yeah, my products do work and I stand behind them. Like, yeah, child, I'll take that plug, but you can still go straight to hell. They asked Drew about her lying all season about Ralph being a football player at Rutgers. And she says he was a football player. He was on the team, but he got redshirted, which I believe means he sat the season out. So he was on the team but never played type of thing. Child, girl, don't tell nobody else that. We revisit the whole Sheree. Did you ever get tired of being clowned about the She by Sheree not being delivered. And she says, it got to be a little much, but in the end, I have t-shirts, I have joggers, so it all worked. No, it didn't. Sheree is all excited about selling her t-shirts with sayings from season 2 and 3 and 4. And Andy reminded her that Candy launched a whole merch line for She Talk this season, while you just now trying to get ready to sell some Who Gon' Check Me Boo t-shirts. You need to be embarrassed, is what he's trying to tell you. So we move on to the Kenya segment of the reunion. And the first question Andy asked is, did anybody else notice a change in Kenya this season? And everybody noticed a change in Kenya this season. Candy says that she thinks the change that we saw in Kenya this season was the good energy that she brought from being on Dancing with the Stars and all of the excitement from that. And Kenya says how that was a major high for her. She's always loved dancing. Her grandmother used to take her to free dance lessons at their community center. It was something that she always wanted her grandmother to see her do. And she got really emotional explaining that, every time she danced, when she was dancing on the show, she felt like she was dancing for her grandmother. And it was a really sweet, really beautiful moment. Andy asked her about the status of her divorce, and she said they're still not divorced. I guess that's why she was still calling that man her husband. Andy said, well, why is y'all not divorced? Is he asking you for something? Like, what's going on? And Kenya said, no, at this point, it's just the holdup. Like, they're waiting on a trial date, and until they get a trial date, they gonna be married. So until the courts do them part, that is her husband. So Andy asked Kenya if she's seeing anyone. Kenya said something about she's group dating and people are pursuing her. I don't know what in the seeking sister wife hell Kenya is talking about, but you got a baby at home and you need to cut the shit. What group date? What? Andy asked her, what in the swing of hell does that mean? Andy said, are you in a throuple? Kenya said, no. Well, girl, explain this. Basically, she's just dating and getting to know people. I ain't got time. I don't know what Kenya's into. This sounds like some Atlanta shit. I don't know. So the question came up about the issue between Kenya and Sanya always pointing out to Kenya that her trip was a couple's trip. And Sanya said, watching it back, she realizes that she was saying to all of the other ladies that they could bring a +1, and it was a very open invitation. But she kept saying to Kenya that it was a couple's trip, like she had to bring a man, and she never intended to make that insinuation. So there's a viewer question that comes up and told Kenya that it was very rude for her to hang up on Sanya during the season and asked, does she regret it? Kenya said, no. But that question must have triggered a flashback, because Kenya just decides to tell us a random story about the one time she ever decided to hang up on her grandmama. And you can see Candy and Drew looking at her like this is going to be a legendary tale, because why is we not talking to your ghost? You hung up on your grandmama. What happened? Kenya said the one and only time I ever hung up on my grandmother, she called me back. She proceeded to come to where I was and beat my ass. Her grandmama done whooped her ass in the name of the village, okay? She don't give a damn about them pageants. I'ma whoop your ass. I got a pageant title for your ass whooping. So they asked Kenya why she raised hell like she did about missing the iFit shoot. And Kenya said it was because she had already missed Sanya's event the day before, and she felt bad about missing another event. She didn't want her to think that she wasn't there for her. And Sanya says, well, that's all well and good, but the issue is I never felt that. I never received that sentiment from you. Sanya explained that she worked that entire day. She was in the sun all day. She said, when I saw that Marlo arrived, I assumed that the bus came and y'all just decided not to come. I didn't know that you had trouble getting there. I just had a whole lot going on. And when I got back, you didn't seem like you were sad you missed it or say, I really wanted to be there. It was just like, why you ain't figure out where I was at? So the question is posed to Sheree about why did she feel the need to tell Sanya that she was going to need to handle Kenya while they were in Jamaica. Sheree says she told Sanya this because Kenya can be a little bit aggressive and you have to stand your ground with Kenya in order for Kenya to respect you. So while Kenya is laughing and talking with Sheree about this, her phone starts ringing. And Sheree said, oh, that's Martell. Kenya grabbed the phone and said, Martell, Sheree will call you back. Oh, you just gonna put all her business out there. So they go ahead and answer the phone and they passing the phone around and laughing like teenage girls. And Andy grabbed the phone and hi, Martell. I said, oh, shit, everybody flirting. All right. So Sheree hangs up the phone and Andy said, Sheree, I'm sorry. I got to tell you, girl, he is a 10 out of 10. Kenya said, I heard from a friend of a friend that the D is too, child. Drew said, Sheree, can you confirm? Girl, what is you fantasizing? Sheree said, I can neither confirm nor deny. Sheree said, he already a dog. I ain't telling y'all, don't ask me nothing. And since Kenya is putting Sheree business in the street, Andy said, well, Kenya, what about you and Mr. Man? Yours that you had in Jamaica, that man that disappeared. Kenya said he only went to the bathroom. He came back. Stop playing with me. Andy said, well, speaking of coming back, did he come back round and come to your room that night? Kenya said, what would make you think that? Kenya said, I am not that kind of girl. And even if she is, she got a toddler while she out here group dating. And she is not about to admit that on TV. So Andy asked about the statements that Sanya's made during the season that every time she tries to hold Kenya accountable, Kenya starts giving her a sob story. And Kenya said she was really disappointed to hear Sanya say that because she shared things with Sanya that she hadn't shared with anyone. And for some reason, Sanya can sympathize with Marlo, but not with Kenya. So Andy brings up the whole Ross moment that happened at dinner in Jamaica. And he starts by asking Sanya, how did it make her feel for Ross to protect her the way that he did? And she said, it's the best feeling in the world to have the person that you love the most stand up for you. And Andy said, well, conversely, how would you feel if Todd or Ralph had talked to you the way that Ross did? And she says, well, the thing is, Ross didn't talk to anybody any kind of way. He wasn't cursing at anybody. He wasn't talking to Sheree or Kenya. Well, who was he talking to? Kenya says that she accepts that and that he's a really sweet guy. I get that they're acknowledging this as a misunderstanding and a misrepresentation of Ross's character. I get that. And I do believe that he's a decent guy. I don't think he's a bad person. But to pretend that the moment just didn't happen and he wasn't talking to nobody, like, child, okay then. Kenya says she respects that he was standing up for his wife, and I get it. Moving on. So Andy brings up the shady game that Kenya decided to play at her baby's birthday party. And he was like, why would you play such a messy game at a child's birthday party? And she said, well, because I didn't think these was going to be that messy. I thought it was going to be some light tea, not locker room tea. So Andy asked Candy how she felt about hearing Sheree say that she has sucked all over the place. Child, he is too deep for me round here, okay? Before Candy can respond, Sheree says, well, the thing is, Candy says that she likes sex. So, I would imagine that she has done it all over the place. You have, right? Candy said, well, if that's the case, I imagine that you also have sucked all over the place. Sheree said, I have. You see this man blowing up my phone while I'm at work, girl. So we move on to the Sanya segment. Andy starts by asking Sanya, what's more difficult, the Olympics or the Real Housewives of Atlanta? She said the Real Housewives of Atlanta for sure. This here is some uncharted territory for me. So they discussed that she and her husband are still trying to have a baby, and Andy asked her what made her change her mind because she seemed so against it in the beginning of the season. And she explained that she and Ross got to a place where they got on the same page, and she felt like he heard her. So Drew was asked about the comments that she made about it basically being Sanya's duty to have her husband's babies, whether she wanted to have more babies or not. And Drew trying to figure out what the hell is y'all, what is y'all asking me? Like, what is the problem? I said something wrong? Sanya explained that, you went on Watch What Happens Live and tried to make it sound like I was a bad wife for not being willing to give my husband another baby. And Andy said, well, you kind of made it sound like it was a woman's job to, like, that's what you're here for, to give your husband babies. At this point, Drew is defensive and upset, and she is over talking Sanya. And look, this is just what I believe. You go talk to your man, you figure out what works for y'all. Everybody talk to their own man and figure out what works for them, because this is just what I believe, all right? And this is what I live by, and this is just what I'm going to do. And she mean that from her heart. She going to give Ralph as many babies as he will take. I don't give a damn what in the handmaid's tale hell y'all think about me. This is what I'm going to do. So we move on to the Kenya versus Marlo segment, and we see the whole reel of the Kenya versus Marlo beef. Andy is trying to get to the root of what exactly is the issue. He says, for Kenya, I understand why you don't like this bitch. I understand the comment she made about your mother. But Marlo, what exactly is your issue with Kenya? Marlo says, well, she's always been dismissive. She just uses me when she wants me, and then she dismisses me. So Andy reads the viewer question, which is, Marlo, why do you pretend to not understand why Kenya doesn't deal with you after everything you've said about her mother, her daughter, and her husband? Marlo said, well, I get it. I understand. It's because she's never forgiven me. I understand. Marlo can go straight to hell with this everybody is the villain for not allowing me to be the victim act. I'm not here for it. Marlo said the only time she forgave me is when she didn't want me to be friends with Portia. Kenya said, girl, please go to hell, okay? Because you didn't want to be friends with Portia. You were throwing Portia under the bus. Drew said, yeah, that's true, because you were mad at me for being friends with Portia, Marlo. You didn't want to be my friend because I was friends with Portia. I know Portia home. Like, when is y'all going to cut my check since y'all running me all up and through this reunion? So the next question is, Marlo, do you think Kenya will continue to be your friend after all the things you've said? And Marlo sarcastically says, no, I think we're done. I think Kenya's done with me. I think it's over. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be so stressed out. I'm just going to be so sad. Andy looked like, I know you ain't giving this bullshit after you just gave a whole fake speech, child. Kenya said this is the sociopath in her that thinks this kind of stuff is funny, because she sits up here and pretends to be sad about it and hurt and does these interviews, and she's fake crying and everything else, but she sits up here and does the sarcastic bullshit. This is the sociopath. Well, since Marlo is spinning around in her crazy, Kenya starts swirling around in hers. I'm going to throw some random shit out here since we just throwing shit. You know what, Marlo? Everything about you is fake. She decided she going to tell Marlo everything from her personality to her name is fake. She said, you know what? Your name ain't even Marlo. It's Latoya Hutchinson. Andy up there looking just as crazy as me. Andy said, is your name Latoya? Just stop drinking tea out of everybody's cup, Andy. Marlo said, no, you've seen my arrest record from 20 years ago. Come on. God damn. Marlo said her best friend's name is Latoya. Kenya said, show us your birth certificate. Of course, they showed us a birth certificate for Marlo that shows Marlo Patrice Hampton. Now, unless Marlo done bought her a new identity, I'm gonna assume that that's her real name. Marlo's like, look, I don't know where you getting this stuff from. My name is Marlo. Kenya said that not according to Alan or Alex or whatever his name is. Candy said, don't get that man in trouble. Marlo said, who? Alan? Alex? Who? Kenya said, never mind, I take it back. Marlo said, oh, Alan, the white guy, Sheree's friend, the crook? Sheree, I don't know what in the Rico racketeering hell you got going on at that damn chateau, but you got more crooks than a few round that bitch. Kenya said, you know what? That's your real problem anyway. You like to call us the money girls, and that's because you broke, and that's your real problem. Marlo said, yes, honey, I know. You are filthy rich. You're rolling in dough. Kenya said, no, I ain't filthy, but I'm comfortable. Marlo said, but is your taxes comfortable? Is you comfortable with the IRS? Is you comfortable there? I said, child. Kenya said, worry about yourself and get your income off your Square reader. Now see. That's what leads us into this question about Kenya. How come you sit up and talk about how hurtful Marlo is with the things that she says when you've been hurtful with the things that you say for years? You've been this person. for a long time. So why is you sitting up carrying on about her bringing the same energy you carry? Kenya used a whole bunch of words that Marlo did not understand, that Marlo said she will be looking up, to say that Marlo and her words have no substance, do not matter, and do not hurt her. The only issue for Kenya is when Marlo brings up people that she cares about who can be hurt by Marlo's words, but she don't give a damn. She ain't hurt by nothing Marlo got to say. Kenya was in full-on pageant mode, okay? I'm not giving her anything. So the next question was to both Kenya and Marlo, and the question was, does y'all's relationship with each other remind you of your relationships with your parents? Kenya said no, because even listening to Marlo tell her story, while some parts of it were news, it came across very disingenuous. She said, we've seen Marlo drag her whole family, the sister, the nephews, the mama. She's always talking about how her mom was on drugs and how her mom went to jail, and Marlo's in the background screaming, yeah, that's because I tell my real story. You don't tell your real story. Kenya said, but she never talks about how she went to prison. Tell that real story. Marlo said she went to jail, not prison. Kenya said, yeah, she went to jail for slashing a woman's face. Tell that story. Marlo lost it. Andy said, okay, this is getting deep. I'd like to move on. Marlo said, okay, Andy, yes. But before we move on, I'd just like to say one little thing. Andy said, okay, go ahead. The one little thing was, Kenya, you're a lying bitch. Andy said, that's not a little thing. Marlo is screaming, you better stop lying on my name and my character. Kenya said, character? No, what really happened is Marlo's demons got triggered when Kenya called out what she did. That conscience is in unrest behind what she's done, and she lost it when Kenya actually called it out. She is screaming at Kenya that she's a liar. You're a liar. I mean, she lost it. Do you hear me? Now, the whole fake name thing is a reach, but the criminal record and the events that followed were real. And so Andy said, well, since Kenya brought it up, why was you in jail? And Marlo tells a story of basically she was out partying with some girlfriends one night. She got into a fight with a girl that resulted in her going to jail for 6 months. She went to county jail, not prison. And after serving her 6 months, she got house arrest, but she kept violating her house arrest to go to the club. And so she kept getting locked up, and that resulted in her having this catalog of mugshots. And the only other charge she has is for a bad check in college. But she has been a stellar citizen otherwise. So we move on to the final segment, which is Sheree versus Drew. And I swear, this is like watching Teletubbies argue. Like, child. The first question is, Sheree, if this dude Anthony was never your assistant, why is he labeled as assistant in your phone? Sheree said that's because that's how she remembers people. She put their name and what kind of job they got. That's just how she know people. She got about 10 painters. She got a bunch of assistants. That's how she know who you are and how to treat you by your title. He asked Drew, did you believe the stuff that Anthony was saying about Sheree? Drew said, no, I just didn't know what to do with the information. So Andy asked Sheree, did you ever confront Anthony about the comments he made about you, not paying for stuff? Sheree said, yeah, and he said he never said that. Everybody said, but Sheree, he said it on the show. Girl, what? This fool said, yeah, but he just said, Sheree don't pay. Girl, that's all that Sheree said that's a narrative they've all been, just trying to create and throw around. Girl, I literally have no words for Sheree at this point. So they asked Drew, since you got more assistants than Beyonce, do you pay all of them or are some of them unpaid interns? She said, yeah, I pay all of my assistants. Sheree said, Anthony said he ain't paid. Matter of fact, Anthony said he's waiting on his last check. Drew said, I don't know how. Not when his car was about to get repoed and we paid that and gave him his last check. I don't know how. One thing they gonna do is tell people damn business. You hear me? They asked Drew, why do you act like your assistant isn't the one that said that your husband was gay? Drew says, oh, I'm glad you asked. And she pulls out her phone and plays a recorded conversation of Anthony saying he never said that. Sheree said, all right, I will one-up you. We gonna go ahead and FaceTime Anthony. And this time Andy allowed it. Yeah, go ahead and call the damn boy. Just go ahead. So the episode comes to an end with Sheree asking Anthony, did you ever work for me? He said, no, I have not. How much money do I owe you? To be honest, Sheree, you don't owe me anything. Andy asked him, did you say to Sheree that Ralph was gay? He says, I mean, maybe at some point in time, I may have said that, but I don't recall. Now, do I think Ralph is gay? No. Do I think Drew needed a storyline? Yes. Andy said, you know what? All right, that's all we needed. All right, bye. Andy could tell this ain't nothing but a fan that done finessed his way onto the stage, and I ain't got time for this bullshit. And it looks like next week is going to be the finale. We're going to see the guys coming out to have their moment. We see that Drew is talking about people cash apping her to send they secret tapes of Sheree and all kind of stuff, child. And we might be delving into the Burris-Tucker union and what issues lie therein. But that's it. That's all. And I ain't got no more. Thank you so much for coming down here, listening to me, and let me get it off my chest. As always, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you have not already. And in the meantime, until next time, I love you and I mean it. Bye.